But next up, man, we are going to talk about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle recently had some remarks in regards to the Will Smith Chris Rock situation. So the Will Smith Oscar slap continues to have legs in the content world. Dave Chappelle recently shared some thoughts on that, so we thought that we would opine on what Dave Chappelle had to say. So this article is from the Huffington Post. It says Dave Chappelle opens up about the ugly side of Will Smith after Oscar slap. Comedy icon Dave Chappelle said Will Smith's quote mask came off when he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars earlier this year, revealing something ugly beneath. And he said, okay, I think they mistyped this. And he said he hopes the mask stays off. Quote, a lot of people forget who Will Smith is, Chappelle said during an event with Rock in Liverpool last week. Must be nice. I wish I can go to Liverpool.
Right.
According to the Telegraph, he reminded the audience that the actor was from a rough part of Philadelphia. Quote, then 10 minutes before he was about to get the biggest award, he acted like he was back in Philadelphia. End quote, Chappelle said. He added, Will did the impression of a perfect person for 30 years, and he ripped his mask off and showed us he was as ugly as the rest of us. Whatever the consequences are, I hope he doesn't put his mask back on again and he lets his real face breathe. I see myself in both men, Chappelle said. Chappelle was attacked on stage a little more than a month after the Oscars. Rock was in attendance. Quote, was that Will Smith? Rock cracked. Uh, Both Rock and Chappelle joked about their attacks at a small club show in Los Angeles days later. Quote, at least you got smacked by someone of repute, Chappelle told Rock, per the Hollywood Reporter. I got smacked by a homeless guy with leaves in his hair. So, those were some interesting remarks that Chappelle provided in reference to Will Smith. Essentially, he was saying that who Will Smith was in the moment that he slapped Chris Rock, that was his actual self, and that Big Willie style Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, movie Hollywood Will Smith is the fake person. And Chappelle has always been a guy who is a champion for authenticity, which I've always personally admired about him. He doesn't care about things like getting canceled or saying the wrong thing or placating to the media. I personally admire that. I think more of these high profile individuals could follow suit with that instead of always bending the knee the way most of them do. But I get it. Celebrity, fame, money, endorsements, all of those influences come into the fold and they can essentially make you become a fake person the way most of them are. But Chappelle is also in a unique position in which he's been able to carve out a niche for himself under the guise of authenticity and not have his career be compromised for it. That's a delicate balance that not a lot of these people know how to strike. Even people who have made it at the very, very top, they don't know how to do that. He's one of the few people who know how to do that. But, he had this to say about Will Smith. And so, what were your thoughts on Chappelle's comments about Will Smith and his mask?
He knows Will, so I'll say that he's fair in his assessment of Will, and the reason why I would say he's fair because he knows Will Smith. I don't know Will Smith, but one thing that I can say about from what I've observed about Will Smith over the years is that he's too happy, and nobody's that happy. And when somebody's running around with that mask on, then there has to be something going on underneath that. And we've seen him distraught on the red talk tables. We've seen the look in his face in certain situations where it's just like, hey, this isn't the same jovial guy that we normally see. And so I really think he acts and he puts on a persona whenever the camera's on, because nobody is woo, hey, everybody is I'm Will Smith, woo. And it's just like, hey man, nobody says woo, bruh. Like nobody does that. What are you wooing about? And so when he's doing that stuff, jumping out of planes for his YouTube channel, apologizing from his set on his YouTube thing, um, it just comes off as disingenuous. And so I don't, I guess he can say that, yeah, he took his mask off because we saw an ugly side of Will Smith because he never displays that in public. So we actually seen that. So I don't think what Dave's getting at is that he's a violent, abusive person. I think what he's getting at is there's a dark side to Will Smith that he never showed the public. And so that I do agree with. I am a Will Smith fan. I said this before in previous thing. Fan of, I mean, I'm still am. I want to see him do well, and I feel like he's very charismatic when the camera's on in movies. He's carried movies when it wasn't really that interesting, but Will Smith's appearances always made it, worthwhile watching. So he's a very talented guy, but at the same time, his personal life to me always seemed a bit off. And I had to look his age up, and he's 53, and he's born September 25th, so he's about to be 54. And I cringed a little bit when I saw how old he was because he has to be that old. But I just cringed a little bit because it's like, damn, bro, like you're still in this space where you haven't been comfortable enough to be yourself, and it's really tragic. One thing that I do know about actors is that when you're playing so many roles in your life and in your career, Denzel Washington's a good person who keeps it under wraps. And yeah, he plays all these roles, but he still keeps, everything, in a sane kind of way. But you have to go somewhere. When Denzel Washington did Malcolm X, he was like, when I was filming that movie, I was Malcolm X. So and the best actors lose themselves in a role. Like when Kevin Spacey had his whole situation pop up when he was out here getting Me Too'd. He came out with a weird video where he was in character from that show that he does when he's the president.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this thing where, you have to have a balance in your personal life. So when hey, when the cameras are on, I get into that role. But once that role is over, I'm back to me. I think he's been doing so much of this acting throughout his entire career that he's just been acting the entire time whenever a camera is on. And so I think Jada sees it. I think his kids see it, his real side. And they know that whatever he's doing whenever the cameras is on is not really him. So yeah, I think Dave has a great point here. The hobo man with leaves in his hair, great great punchline there. Um, so Dave still got some juice there, but yeah, man. How do you feel about it?
So Chappelle has talked about this kind of stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite stand-up of all time is Dave Chappelle for What It's Worth, which was way back in 2004. That's my favorite Chappelle stand-up ever, and it's my favorite stand-up ever in life. To me, it's the funniest stand-up special I've ever seen. And there was a part in that special where he was talking about celebrity worship. And in particular, there was a part where he talked about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, I don't know if you remember this, way back, way before he was even being implicated as a creep.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Cosby took, and this was pre-social media. So if Bill Cosby had said today what he said back then, social media troll world would probably have, jumped all over Bill Cosby. But Bill Cosby way back in like the late 90s or sometime way back in the day made some comments about black people and hip hop and all of this kind of stuff. And Bill Cosby got on his soapbox and he was talking about how black people need to do better. Bill Cosby was essentially saying, hey, black people, be more accountable for yourselves and your own actions and behaviors. And he was going off into tangents talking about rappers and hip hop and all of that kind of stuff. He took a lot of heat for that. He was perceived as anti-black or, sellout, all of those other things that come up a lot when black people like to speak on those types of things. And Chappelle, years later in the For What It's Worth special, talked about that. And he was like, man, that's why Bill Cosby got in trouble so much because, you know, he had, because he was selling pudding pops for 40 years, people forget that Bill Cosby is a guy from Philly in the projects, and he might say some real stuff from time to time. And so because he said some real stuff, he took heat for making real. He took heat for saying some real stuff. Uh, in part because people's expectations of who Bill Cosby is Cliff Huxtable, not William Cosby, dude from the projects. Now separate that from Bill Cosby, the creep. I am saying people can be introspective and be creeps too. That's possible. So I'm not saying that this means Bill Cosby's not a creep, but he did make those comments and he took heat for that, in part because people had an expectation of Bill Cosby as, the beacon for black families and black fatherhood and all this kind of stuff. So in light of our perception of you in that way, how dare you make these types of comments? Who are you to say that? And so a lot of that came from the fact that there was just a violation of people's expectations of Bill Cosby, which I don't even know that that's Bill Cosby's fault per se. Like, he did what he did and he did the Cosby Show thing and all of that. But at no point did Bill Cosby ever get onto a podium and say, hey, because I'm Cliff Huxtable, I am hereby disqualifying myself from saying real stuff from time to time. So I'll bring that up to say that, Chappelle has talked about that in the past, and we've seen these types of dynamics play out with other people who in the entertainment world carve a niche out for themselves, whether willingly or unwillingly, as something, and then you behave in a way that is opposed to that, and now you got all of these problems. With Will, and I've kind of said this before, I don't think you're wrong, but I also think that a lot of this is our expectations of Will Smith. And I think both of those things can be happening at the same time. I feel like, Will Smith was sort of in a space where he did enough damage to himself with respect to making himself out to be this particular type of person. So, him putting his mask on. But then I also think that we just kind of take a lot of this stuff too far. And we really do believe that these individuals in their real lives are the characters that they play in these movies and TV shows. So a lot of us are walking around out here saying Will Smith is the Fresh Prince. So he's supposed to be happy and jovial all the time. And so when he becomes a real person and he becomes somebody who's capable of real human emotion and real things, we decide that we are going to opine on it as if to suggest that he wasn't being himself in that moment. When in that moment, we're all capable of doing those things. So I just think that this is a referendum on our propensity for celebrity hero worship, at the same time as it being a referendum on how some of these people do lose themselves and get swept up in the Hollywood madness. And so both of those things are happening at the same time, in my opinion. And I just kind of feel like Will Smith was caught in the middle of that.
All
And
right, no, go ahead.
yeah, and I just kind of feel like, Will, and this is my speculation, like you said, I don't know him either. I'm just
Mhm,
speculating based upon an outsider's point of view.
mhm.
And I just kind of got the impression throughout these last 3 or 4 years where he was incurring all of this press that was unbecoming of him with respect to his the way that he raises, like the way that it became public how they chose to raise their kids, some of the inner workings of their relationships, the whole open marriage thing, and some of the stuff that she was doing that reflected negatively upon him, whether he likes it or not. The way that that played out in the media and in popular culture was, hey, this is making Will Smith look bad. And so I think that where he's guilty is that he may have not gone about in the best way expressing when he is genuinely unhappy or frustrated with a situation. Rather,
Right.
he internalized all of it to the point where at the right time it exploded and it resulted in a publicly embarrassing moment, which is what happened with Chris Rock. And so I think that it serves as a cautionary tale for others in how to best handle situations on the front end as opposed to internalizing them and allowing them to fester to a point where they can explode, and you can end up making things work worse for yourself, both in terms of your career and your public persona and in terms of your personal life. So I think Dave Chappelle was on to something, but I think Dave Chappelle's remarks are both aimed at what he believes to be Will's mask and how he hopes that for Will's sake, Will Smith keeps the mask off. But it was also comments about how we look at these individuals, and we really do think that Will Smith, the person, is like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Just like we'll look at Bill Cosby and we really feel like Bill Cosby is Cliff Huxtable, or we'll look at any of these other people and feel like this person is really who this person is in real life, which is us and our depraved, weird nature that we have about ourselves in terms of attaching the sleep these tent poles of celebrity hero worship to these people. And the reason why a person like Denzel Washington is able to sidestep a lot of this is because Denzel Washington, and I believe that this is intentional, but Denzel Washington is able to strategically position himself in such a way that he is not perceived to be these beacons of something that people can gravitate towards, because we as people just need to be able to hold on to a symbol. And Will Smith put himself in that situation where he's going to be a symbol, and Cosby put himself in a situation where he's going to be a symbol. And conversely, I think Denzel has just said, I'm going to make art and movies, and I'm not going to allow you to put me in a situation where you're going to hold on to me as a symbol. And that's the difference between the two of them. But otherwise, I think Chappelle's points were apropos, but I think that they were points aimed at us as people as well as at Will Smith directly.
A fair point. And, because celebrity worship is a real thing. I've heard on numerous occasions from many celebrities that people would, hell, Chappelle said it, when he had a amusement park or whatever. And,
Yeah.
they're saying, I'm Rick James, bitch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fucking, what's Mickey Mouse is, woo,
Yeah.
I'm Rick James, bitch. And so, you can't really separate yourself the way that people watch and consume stuff. They'll get mad at X person because they did something wrong to somebody in a movie or a TV show. And then they
Yeah.
were in person, they were like, how could you do that? And it's like, what? I didn't even, first of
Yeah.
all, I didn't even write that. Then
Yeah.
I'm not that real person. That's not a real person. Why are you mad at me? And so but here's the thing. So like you said, it's like something, with, human nature that, people will do that. And so one of the coolest things that I've realized in my life is that, people's homes, whatever they choose to put on their wall, it's a reflection of, their subconscious. And so when people are watching like movies and TV shows, it's their subconscious mind can't determine what they're watching is real or fake.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're watching these things, and that's why, it's for anybody, whenever you're consuming any form of media, it's you can consciously try to filter some stuff out, but your subconscious mind really feels like you're in outer space when you're watching Star Trek. And so if people don't consciously filter stuff out, those are the people that interrogate people in the streets. Those are the ones that get disappointed when stuff like this happen. And I'm guilty of it too, because I really felt like Will wouldn't have done anything like that. you know
Mm-hmm.
it was so bizarre, and honestly no one has done anything like that, at least as far as I'm concerned. And so it was just so bizarre. So yeah, I was disappointed in that, but I never believed that that guy that was yelling woo and jumping out of planes and so happy go lucky was genuinely him. And I always had this thing where it's just like, hey man, I like Will Smith, I'm a fan of him, but I don't like this part of him. And then once all of this stuff started coming out with him and his marriage and his kids and all that other stuff, and it's not very flattering at all. Um, yeah, I'll be disappointed but not surprised, disappointed but not surprised. And this situation here is like how Dave was saying, the mask, the mask that he puts on all the time, yeah, it is coming off. So I do agree with you saying that, yeah, Dave has a point, but there's also a flip side of it where, the consumers, the people who are watching and decide to be fans or not, the people that just watch him, they do have to have some level of compartmentalizing their brain to go, hey, this guy is just acting, he's just an actor. So he shit just like me and all this other stuff. So he's a human. So the part about Will that I feel like, he has immense resources. He can get all the kind of help he can get. And for him to be his age and for these things to be coming out with him, like I can see if this was going on with other people, it's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But it's just like, nah, man, Will keep having stuff come out every other year.
Mhm.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. And so in this situation, we actually saw the fire. So I think that's
Yeah.
what that's what Dave was saying. It's like, hey man, you actually saw it. So man, and to touch base on the Bill Cosby thing, yeah, man, he was on a soapbox.
Yeah.
And he was pointing as if he doesn't do anything wrong. But those are the peeps, right? So there's the people out here that's always doing the pointing, always throwing the rocks and stuff like this. Why are you throwing so many stones? And it's because, well, you've got some stuff that you can get stones thrown at you as well. And so for Will to be out there to be playing into this role of Fresh Prince, as you say, or Mike Lowry, and he's just out here just, yeah, suave, debonair, cool guy. Yeah, on camera it works. But in real life, when you're just doing your everyday thing, it comes off disingenuous, as I said earlier. So um yeah, again, like with the Tom Brady thing, this sucks. I don't like this. I feel sorry for the kids. I'm starting to feel sorry for Jada, because I thought Jada was the one stirring the pot, where she has her own. I'm not saying she's not guilty in any of this, but I can see how she isn't really all in on him because of how on the fringe he seems to be. And he's always seemed to be that way in public to me. He always seemed to be a little off, on the fringe. And so, yeah, he went to the other side with this award show thing. So, yeah, I think it sucks. He will never recover from this. This will live forever in infamy. And so long as Will Smith name comes up, if there's a documentary, 20 years from now and they're talking about whatever, they're going to bring this up. And so this will always be a stain on his life. And I think that's pretty whack, but he earned it. So, yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did earn it. I just no one is always that happy. That is correct. I just thought in that moment Will Smith became human. It's just in the moment that you become human, you don't want to do it on that big a stage because it's just too embarrassing and difficult to recover from. But I said it before a couple times and I'll say it again because I truly believe this. In that moment, I don't think he was slapping Chris Rock. I think he was slapping everybody
Mm-hmm.
whom he felt disrespected him. So it wasn't just Chris Rock; it was everybody, his own family included, in all likelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that it's a way to see something play out in real life that should provide folks with an example that you learn how to be better with reconciling your feelings and venting your frustrations in the moment so that you don't have this huge thing going on inside of you, and then at any moment it explodes, and now you're embarrassing yourself publicly. Um, that part to me, there's no like the like when Chappelle's talking about Will Smith's mask, he's basically saying in a roundabout way, you saw in that moment that Will Smith is capable of being a human being like the rest of us. That's
Mhm,
essentially what Chappelle's saying.
mhm,
But be that as it may, you don't want to be in a situation where your moment of humanity comes at the expense of your dignity and along with public embarrassment in this way. And so the way that you kind of stave that off is by confronting situations that bother you in the moment that they bother you instead of just holding it all in. And I just kind of feel like Will Smith was just kind of holding it all in. And when it exploded, and it just so happened to explode at the most inopportune time.
People.
And that's pretty, yeah, and that's pretty much it, man. But we all got a mask, and you know, the only reason why Will Smith did what he did with that whole contrition stuff and the apologies and all of that, of course, you want to apologize to Chris Rock because that was just disrespectful. But the whole public apology and doing the whole YouTube thing where he was answering questions from fans and apologizing and all of that kind of stuff, the only reason why he felt compelled to do that, I believe, is because he felt as though he violated people's expectations of who he is as a person.
Mhm,
And those expectations came from how we have a tendency to believe that these people are who they are in their personal lives, that they are in their celebrity lives.
mhm.
And that to me is our fault as people. That ain't Will Smith's fault. So, we can have both of these things going on at the same time, like I said, where people need to get a more firm grasp on reality and who and what these people actually are. And people like Will Smith just need to know how to confront situations in the moment so that you don't publicly embarrass yourself so poorly, so badly.
Mhm.
'Cause that was just a really bad moment for him. And yeah, I just kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, and I agree with that. What well said. And it's kind of like, how, like, everybody like to talk about the wall that women hit. They want to just do their thing and have fun, and then they hit this wall where they're not as supple as they once used to be. All right.
Yeah.
So so that wall is a wall of reality. And so everybody goes through this. I know I personally go through this where I'm doing something where I know I shouldn't be doing it, and I'm still doing it because there's no immediate consequence to it. And then I have to have this moment of an event that
Yeah.
sets me straight.
Yeah.
And so this was his wall moment, hopefully, where he's, behind closed doors, he's really trying to fix some stuff within himself, to so he could actually be his genuine authentic self. And yeah, I agree that Dave is saying that his mask was him, and everybody does have a mask, but at the same time, there still can be a level of authenticity even when you're wearing a mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and, and
Yeah.
so and that's admitting your flaws. That's admitting, that you're not perfect, and that, hey man, whatever, whatever. And honestly, I really think it took until this moment for him to actually at least say something that he's not perfect and he's flawed and all that stuff. But that's a given. That comes with life. And so for him to be parading around as if, nothing's going wrong, but we see your kids growing up looking, on some other stuff. Now, granted,
Hmm.
his kids are smart as hell. So they did a good job of putting information or having information available for them. But at the same time, they were also way out there. And to me, his children were reflections of how way out there he is.
Yeah.
And that's the fringy kind of behavior that I can see, even though he has a smile on his face. And so to me now, his children seem more sane than him. Jada seems more sane than him. He comes off now, at least to me, as the person that's mucking up the house. And that's why I was saying, like, I know Jada has her role in this stuff too, but hell, she even said, and we talked about this before, about how she said it on her Red Talk stuff where he basically just got her pregnant and then forced her to get married and stuff. And so she didn't really want this anyway. And so it sucks that she had to make that public, but that's in his character set. And he did that back then, and he's been dragging this thing out for this long. And so when the foundation of their relationship started off on that foot, where's the trust? Where's the love? Where's any of that? If she said she was crying when that happened, when she found out she was pregnant. So with all of that being said, it's this is for him, and him sweeping stuff under the rug his entire life, it seems, that yeah, it's starting to come out that, hey man, there's lumps in the rug, and it's very obvious that there's trash under there. And this event, everything got peeled, well, not everything, part of it got peeled back. And yeah, it was unbecoming for him. So yeah, cautionary tale for anybody out there that's living a double life, you know, and
Yeah.
try to be, yeah, when you do your interviews and you're talking to people, yeah, you're bringing your best version of yourself. You're not going to tell them, hey, would you take any stationery home? No, I'm not going to take any stationery home. I'm not going to do that. Yes, you are. Right. But you're going to tell them no. Right. So was that authentic? No, it wasn't. So there's times where people are not authentic. They lie. They do this. They put on an act at a job and all this and this stuff. But at the same time, while you're at work, while you're doing your thing or whatever, there's still a layer of your genuine self that you could put out there that, that you're not really all the way masked up. But for him, I think that this situation, again, for all these years, for him carrying on with this stuff, that, yeah, like I said, it's just all of this stuff, just it had to manifest itself somehow. And so, Jada's red table talks and stuff like that. I mean, I know I was grilling her initially because I'm like, hey man, keep that indoors. But I think she, much like Tom Brady's wife, just personally had enough of the shenanigans, and she just wants to tell her side of the story. And that Will Smith, Big Willie style that you guys know and love, behind closed doors, he does this and that. And so if you're living a life like that where, you're hey, oh, he was such a nice guy. That's what they always say about serial killers and stuff. Oh, he waves to me and all this other stuff. I'm not calling him a serial killer, but I'm just saying, like, that person that always puts on that act, you might want to investigate that a little bit. So yeah, it sucks for this. But yeah, man, this is a cautionary tale, man. And I really think that if you do feel as though you're not being yourself all the way, bring yourself to some people, not the ugly side, but bring yourself to people just to let them know that, oh, your breath do stink. Like, you are a human. Like,
Hmm.
you're just like me. So I don't know, man. This is cautionary, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely cautionary.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's breath does stink. But I also think that it's incumbent upon everyone else to remember
Mm,
that we all have breath that doesn't stink. So the door swings both ways. But
for sure.
appreciate Dave Chappelle for the content. And as we like to say with this Will Smith stuff, good luck. Hopefully it all works out. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, this thing still has legs, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll do another one, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure he
probably so.
I'm sure there's gonna be more revealing news about Will Smith in this
Yeah,
interaction.
yeah, we shall see. But for now, we'll go ahead and move on.